So we had a ton of interesting interpretations and insight in response to our most recent giant spider speculation video. In today's video, we're going to talk a little bit more about if a giant spider is possible for the anniversary, as well as explore some legitimate possibilities for Chapter 24 killers based on new information. Right now, people are wondering if Behavior is going to do an early video teaser for Chapter 24 just like they did with the Ringu, because data miners are able to leak licensed chapters earlier than the teaser week before the PTB. There's been a lot of theories circulating around lately about what's most likely to come. A lot of players are expecting a really big license to come in for the 6-year anniversary, and some of these licenses are actually pretty plausible. How's it going, everyone? My name is Schmuckles. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I also stream on Twitch on Wednesday and Sunday nights. The link for that is in the description below. I just want to make something clear. Videos like these ones are the kinds of videos that I like to post. You can expect more videos like this one in the future. This is not reposting the same video over and over. When you see a new upload from Schmuckles, I'm guaranteeing that there's new information, news, or research in the video. Even if the thumbnail looks similar to previous thumbnails or we're building off of old information, there's always going to be enough new news to constitute a new video. In addition to this, new videos are my interpretation of the current ever-changing situation. I hate when content creators repost the same video, but at the same time I have to reiterate a tiny bit because it's not guaranteed that the viewer has seen the previous video in the series. The previous video in this series is this video right here. We thought the frontrunner for the anniversary was Pennywise, but that's actually changed now. This was our tier list at the time based on existing information such as this curious tweet from Matthew Cote. What we found out just days before the tweet, people tweeted at Behavior about the ring as a chapter in DBD. And look, even some people were begging for this license. This was all just 1 week before Cote's tweet. There's pretty high odds that Cote was working with the Ringu license holders at this time, and this is what he was talking about. As a result, our tier list is going to change. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video if you want to see what we think is most likely and why. To add to our spider theory, people have noticed that the current rift's primary reward is a spider hatching. It doesn't add to the Saw theme, so it might hint towards the next rift. Some people are thinking that it's a subtle tease for the next chapter in DBD. According to DBD leaks, the next rift was under development in January and will come with 2 levels. The mobile asymmetrical game Identity 5 brought in a giant spider and it was pretty well implemented. Some people really think that it's too early to be getting a teaser for Chapter 24. There's no way to know for sure if that was a teaser or if it was a subtle clue that they thought nobody would notice, or if that giant bug was actually a mistake in the picture. The teaser happened before the release of the Ringu chapter, so some people are wondering why Behavior would have taken the hype away from that. When I asked my subscribers, the word on the street is Chapter 24 is probably licensed. We haven't seen an original anniversary since The Clown.
We've done a lot of licenses and we've practically done all the classics that we have in our list, but there's still a few in there. And the thing is that we can produce 4 chapters a year, right? That's our format, and that's how we want to do this in the future as well. And so there's only so much content we can create. So that's only like the 8 characters per year. So if we're gonna do licenses, they have to be awesome. They have to be a great fit for gameplay. They have to be a great fit for fantasy. They need to bring something original and cool. Silent Hill was definitely one of them. There's probably others out there, so from movies, from other games. So it's gonna happen again for sure.
Seeing a video game license for the anniversary chapter makes a lot of sense. Video game licenses like The Last of Us, Until Dawn, and The Evil Within are all possible. Would licenses like this deliver for a giant anniversary event? These are the kinds of questions Behavior is asking when planning the 6-year. I'd say no, not really. Do we really think they're gonna bring in another video game license with zombies for the anniversary event? We can actually make some evidence-based speculations for which licenses are not the 6-year. For example, the Friday the 13th Twitter said in mid-February, if and when Horror Inc. and Victor settle up, and yeah, that's pretty much all I need to read from that tweet. It's way too early for Jason Voorhees. Last month, DBD creative director Dave Richard talked about his dream to collaborate with Stephen King. Richard said, "Personally, I'm a giant fan of the Stephen King universe and the villains from his books. I would love to be able to do one of his monsters at some point. I think that would be amazing. It's such a great universe and there are so many different possibilities we could explore." Do we really think Pennywise is the anniversary after Dave Richard said this in a recent interview? Devs are not allowed to say anything that could be revealing information for upcoming content. Matthew Cote talked about this in an interview.
The teasing has become difficult because people are so clever. Like, our fans are so intensely investigative. Like, we have to be extremely careful. I think we did well with the whole chapter before that, like All Kill chapter. We had a series of teases and things on Twitter and Takeover.
Werewolf Yeti, yeah, I remember.
The speculations were wild and insane, and it was so much fun to watch.
Dave Richard has accidentally done this in the past, but I don't think this is another slip up. I don't think there's any Stephen King properties coming for the anniversary chapter. So no Pennywise, no Carrie, and no Jack Torrance. Someone tweeted at Behavior about enjoying the Ringu PTB. They thought it wouldn't be seen by Dead by Daylight, but Dead by Daylight tweeted, "We see everything." And Kote tweeted this back. So chapter 24 probably isn't Predator. Kote would not tweet this if chapter 24 is Predator. Could chapter 24 be Chucky? I don't think Chucky's height is what's keeping him out of DBD. In an interview I found from 2019, Kote said, "Chucky, for instance, is comedy much more than horror, but he's still a horror icon. I don't think he would fit as it because he is too funny. The size is not a problem at all. Even the hooking, we would make a way to make it happen. That's an example of likely just too far outside the genre to be used." This explains why Chucky wasn't on the satisfaction survey. It's seeming more and more likely that Chucky is a license that Behavior has decided they're not going to do. Same thing with Slenderman. Slenderman is little more of a wild card than Chucky to me because there's no interviews with Kote explicitly stating a reason why Behavior doesn't want Slenderman, other than the fact that he doesn't touch his victims. But Dave Richard just did an interview where he talked about how Behavior worked around the fact that Sadako doesn't touch her victims. He even explicitly talked about how Sadako's interactions with hooks and survivors are based on her psychic powers. So I guess Slenderman could work. We've seen 2 licenses in the last year now with killers that don't touch their victims. If we get leaks that chapter 24 is a licensed paragraph, that would kind of match Slenderman. So I'm not writing off Slenderman entirely. Slenderman could be the 6th year, but he's not in the top 5 because he wasn't on the survey. We know that Crypt TV has wanted their own chapter in DBD. Somebody tweeted about that and Crypt TV themselves liked the tweet. There's been a lot of controversies with Crypt TV and NFTs lately. So if this was the anniversary chapter, Behavior is probably panicking right now. I don't think Crypt TV matches the profile of what we'd see for the 6th year. Kote himself has said that Crypt TV isn't the biggest thing out there. Does Netflix and BioShock working on a deal together make a BioShock license less likely? We know that the Resident Evil franchise has worked with Netflix. This was before Stranger Things left DBD, but it still feels like video game devs are able to hold on to their properties. Does BioShock really match that iconic profile we'd expect to see for the 6-year anniversary chapter? In my opinion, not really. The only way I could see an argument for BioShock over Ringu for the anniversary is if the Rapture map was planned to come in for the anniversary. Candyman is really tough to have in my top 5 because he's one of the icons of horror that hasn't been possible for years in DBD. He's more of a wildcard at this point because he would fit as the anniversary chapter, but why hasn't Behavior brought in Candyman sooner? Big shout out to Turquoise for bringing this to my attention. Those voice recordings we talked about in the last video could have and probably were for Dota 2 on Netflix. Dota Dragon's Blood Season 2 was released on Netflix on January 18th of this year, and Tony Todd was a voice artist in this season. If DBD were to bring in a killer with an iconic actor or actress, hopefully they'll also get the likeness rights so the killer will actually look like the iconic versions we want to see. They don't usually use a killer likeness, but recently they got Doug Bradley's likeness for the Pinhead voice lines. This is the exact type of interaction that would probably happen if Behavior got Tony Todd's likeness for Candyman.
Dead by Daylight is happening, and I'm on it, and it's me. For all the times that I said it wasn't me, that's because it wasn't me. And for all the times that I said I hadn't been contacted by anybody from Dead by Daylight, that was because I hadn't been contacted by anybody from Dead by Daylight. As I say, I'm not a gamer, and this kind of started in August, very slightly surreally for me, at Steel City Con here in Pittsburgh. Fans suddenly started coming down the line and saying to me, "Are you going to do the Hellraiser chapter of Dead by Daylight?" And I had never heard of Dead by Daylight. I didn't know what Dead by Daylight was. I had no idea what they were talking about, much less a Hellraiser chapter thereof. So I kept on denying all knowledge of it because I had no knowledge of it, really. But by a slightly circuitous route, which I don't entirely understand myself, and I won't bore you with, we have now reached the point where I am on Dead by Daylight, and I know what Dead by Daylight is.
Sort of, not really.
Kind of. And I saw there was that strange early bit of graphics that was released when it wasn't my voice. It was somebody with an English accent pretending to be me, which I didn't think was very good. But then they released the bit you showed me, the bit of stuff with.
I don't know what they call it. They
with
call
my
all
voice
them
on.
different
Yeah, I don't know.
things.
It was pictures that moved, images.
This is true.
The one you showed me.
Yes.
Yes, animation.
Yes.
Whatever it is in game land talk. And I thought that looked rather good.
We've talked about other licenses that we don't think it is, so what's left? Seriously, could you guess what licenses are in my top 5 right now based on what we haven't talked about? Number 5 is the Alien with Ellen Ripley in a spaceship map. Kote said in an interview in 2019, "That's a tough one because the ones that I really want are possible. But Xenomorph and even Predator are really on that line, just past the line for use." But others argue that they would be fine within the Dead by Daylight world, and that's a long debate. We already know that Predator is likely off the table, but Alien is an IP that matches the profile that would make sense as an anniversary chapter. Heck, when Kote tweeted this, he could have been working with the Alien license holders, 20th Century Studios. Alien and Predator are both owned by 20th Century Studios, so maybe Predator is just something that's been on Kote's mind as well. Number 4 is The Walking Dead. Some people think the timing is right for a chapter like this since the season finale is right now for The Walking Dead. After the final part of the season finale, The Walking Dead hype will start to die down. We're in the middle of The Walking Dead finale right now, and the last part comes at the end of the year. The Walking Dead theories that are circulating around right now focus on the fact that AMC has been so willing to work with developers in the past. And we're not talking just Fortnite, developers of all sizes. This is definitely a big enough franchise to make sense as the anniversary chapter. Number 3 is The Nun. One theory that really makes sense for why we saw 3 licenses in year 6 for DVD is because they already have the anniversary chapter lined up with a new map. I could see both Ed and Lorraine coming in as survivors with The Nun as well as a new map. That'd be 9 new perks and a lot of new DVD content. It's a really big license and there's nothing eliminating The Nun as a possibility like the other licenses we've talked about in this video. I mean, The Nun and The Walking Dead both match this profile of a giant anniversary license. If the anniversary is one of these 2 licenses, it's gonna feel really strange rewatching this video later. The Nun would probably come in with a castle map. What's really interesting is that this castle where they shot the Nun is the same castle that we saw in the cutscenes. The Observer visited Vlad the Impaler at his castle in Romania and they actually shot the Nun at the same castle. Number 2 is an original chapter. This covers a variety of killers, whether it's the spider theory, a vampire or blood-sucking monster, or the new monster that we saw in the recent Tome cutscene. A lot of people thought that this cutscene with the vampire was teasing the 6-year anniversary, because that symbol we see on the castle looks like it could be the 6-year anniversary crown. It looks pretty similar when comparing it to previous crowns. So possibly behavior is hinting at a blood-sucking killer for the anniversary. If they were to bring in a character like this, it probably wouldn't be a stereotypical version, but more their own original spin on a vampire. It's possible we could see a very different kind of anniversary where behavior wants us to focus on celebrating Dead by Daylight in their original creations.
And we want to keep on telling these as time goes on. The more original characters we create, the more stories that we have to tell.
You want to know more about this character.
Exactly, and like we've got some ways to tell this that I think we haven't even been able to show yet. So I'm really curious to see what we can actually do and how the players react to everything. Because the lore in Dead by Daylight it's rich, and we just want to be able to show as much of it as we can.
Number 1 is Five Nights at Freddy's. At this point, Springtrap is hitting the mark in all the right places. Like I said, this anniversary could have been planned in advance. A license like FNAF is also a pretty good reason why we saw an extra license in year 6. Since Kote was working with the Ringu license holders in September, that means Behavior already had something different planned for Chapter 23, because they announced the roadmap at the 5-year anniversary. We know that whatever chapter that was tentatively planned for Chapter 23 before the ring was probably original, and did not have a new map, because Resident Evil and Area of Crows were the chapters with 2 maps. Meaning whatever original chapter was planned for Chapter 23 may have been pushed to Chapter 25 because there's no map. To me, that kind of suggests that we didn't see the Ringu chapter as the anniversary because it didn't come with a new map. Does that make sense? If FNAF is lined up for the anniversary with a new map, there's no way that Ringu with no new map would replace that anniversary chapter. Ringu could have instead replaced Chapter 23. Behavior bringing in an iconic license with a new map is the best way to make the anniversary chapter big.
We are always going to focus on these events as the big ones during the year because we want them always to be big. These are the moments for our community where we want them to celebrate together and realize that, look, this is Dead by Daylight's time. Come celebrate with us. This year is going to be no exception. I think we're going to deliver on a really big anniversary, a really amazing Halloween event that's coming.
Even though some people consider FNAF a controversial license, the giant release of Security Breach has shown that people still support the franchise. I've been getting a lot of hate for using Leaks by Daylight as a source for part of the FNAF speculation. I can't believe I have to reiterate this because I already went over this in this video, but there was evidence that Leaks by Daylight was actually told Chapter 20 before that chapter was released. Leaks by Daylight was able to reveal the exact Resident Evil chapter before it was revealed by Behavior. If that's confusing, you can click on the title above for the full theory. If someone has more information or can critically analyze and debunk that fact, then I'm happy to drop this tweet as evidence. But saying that the tweet is coming from Leaks by Daylight and therefore it's not valid actually doesn't debunk the facts that we talked about. Let me know what your theories are and what's to come in the comments below. Which possibility do you think is most likely and why? It's kind of crazy that we dropped Pennywise, Chucky, and Malignant from our tier list, but we had good reason. Dave Richard openly talked about Stephen King IPs, and the Chucky and Malignant theories were heavily based on the assumption that this tweet from Kote was talking about chapter 24, which it probably wasn't. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.